And if you still notice that you're looking over your shoulder and when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? When you start doing that in your day-to-day life, remind yourself of what the word is for that essence. And tell yourself to be still and be quiet and be gentle but firm with yourself and just say stop. Stop. And then say the word. And then do your best to experience that feeling that you felt in the orb of light meditation when you were experiencing that essence. And just be there and let it go. Don't think about it. Know, trust, have faith that it's on its way. You will notice that things work out. This is when you don't care the way it manifests. You've already done all that work. It doesn't matter. It's done. It's none of your business. It's over. You're moving on. Go enjoy things. Find a hobby. Start doing things that you've always wanted to do. Get yourself involved in fun activities. Do something else. Clean out your closet. Whatever you can do. Get yourself busy so that you can get your mind completely off your goal, especially if you're trying to get out of a troublesome situation. Stop thinking about it. You've already done the work. Stop thinking about it. I know that sounds irresponsible, but it's not, because you won't allow yourself, your deep mind will not allow yourself to be irresponsible. You will take care of business, I promise you, but you won't obsess over it. And that way you will allow the manifestation to happen in a very, very spectacular, wonderful way without you destroying it with your negative thinking. All right, so that's all in your homework. And, okay, now, let's, do we have questions either on the chat, which I cannot go through all of that. So does anybody have any questions that they can audibly tell me about? And we can talk about them before I go into the next little segment here. I hope that if you do, that you go ahead and speak up, or somebody else does, because I don't want you to feel like you didn't get your questions answered, or if something doesn't make sense.
Hello, Ariel.
Yes.
Okay, the last thing you said, my deep mind will not allow me to. I kind of missed that a little bit, or I didn't. I want to make sure I write that down correctly. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So if you've done your spell, especially, and you've gone through the whole rigmarole of a goal, you've outlined what you want, you've discussed with your deep mind basically how you see this thing resolving or coming about. Let's just say, for instance, you've got bills to pay. So you've already written all that out. You've already done maybe a spell. You've already done maybe a planetary spell, or at least a writing exercise, or maybe you've done some chanting of an incantation about it. Somehow you've addressed this with your deep mind. You've done some sort of magical act, whether it's one of the ones that we've discussed in the earlier classes, or one of these more simple but powerful methods today, such as writing or chanting or just visioning, right? Or a combination of all of the above. Your deep mind's not stupid. It knows how to keep your heart beating, right? It gets it. It gets that you need to pay your bills. And you've told it what you want. And you, instead of just letting it do its thing, what we oftentimes do is, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh my God, it's not happening. It's not happening. Oh my God. Everything is ruined. And it's akin to digging up the seed to see how it's working. And then your deep mind goes, okay, well, I'm confused now, because before he said he wanted this, and now he's saying it's not working. So does he want this, or does he want it to not work? I don't get it. Because your deep mind, it's not stupid, but it doesn't operate in the same language that you do. It doesn't understand if you're joking. It doesn't understand, oh, I see, he's just worried about it, but he doesn't know that I'm on it. Anytime you put a bunch of emotional energy toward this topic, your deep mind takes it as a command, as another magical operation. So if you've done all of this great work showing it what to do, and then you say, oh my gosh, it's not working, or when's it going to happen, or I need it now because otherwise, because you're in all of this negative energy, all of this negative emotion, it thinks that you're telling it that that's what you want, because it doesn't differentiate between those two things. So you're either going to see what happens is, if you're already having negative experiences with something, say your bills, since that's what we're talking about, then there's already a mental pattern that's alive for that. So when you've told your deep mind, I want you to do it differently now, if you go back into the old pattern, your deep mind says, oh, well, I guess we're not doing that. We're just going to status quo. So that's what he wants. We're going to stay status quo, right? So when you catch yourself doing that, that's when you want to move into these other, like I said, take one of these essences out and say, what is it that I want with this money thing? Ultimately, I want peace, or ultimately, I want abundance, or whatever it is. And you're going to take that into your orb of light meditation, and you're going to just focus on the essence. You've already done your spell. So now you're just going to sit and show your deep mind the ultimate thing that you want to experience. And you're going to let it work out the details for you. And know that your deep mind, if it knows how to keep your heart beating, it's not going to say, oh, well, since all he wants is peace, he's not going to pay the electric bill this month, because you've already told it you want your bills paid. So you have to trust that things are going to be taken care of. And you take life as it comes. I mean, you know that you're not going to get so blissed out over peace that when the electric bill comes in that you're going to say, oh, it's okay. You know you're going to pay it. So you don't have to worry. A lot of times people think that when I say just forget about your worries, because your deep mind's on it, you've already done your magics. Focus on the essence. Exalt your emotions to that place, to where you already want to be, and it will make the manifestation more expedient. People say, oh, well, that's not very responsible. And actually, it's more responsible, because what's irresponsible is going back to the same stupid mental patterns that got you in trouble in the first place. So don't worry that you're being irresponsible by not participating in negative thinking. The negative thinking is what got you into the trouble in the first place. It's okay for you to take a complete 180 and stop and keep your mind focused on the end result. Act as though you've already experienced and accomplished what you want, and then forget about your goal, forget about your spell, forget about all of it, and stay as exalted as you possibly can at all times. And anytime you feel your emotions starting to move back in the other direction, use one of your tools to get you back right on track. Don't allow yourself to spiral back down, because then you'll just go back to where you were. Think of it. If you're, if there's a river running, there's already a groove. And that's why the river runs in that groove. If you want the river to run in another direction, you have to actually create a new groove for it to run, right? So if you just allow yourself to go back to your old patterns, it's too easy for you to just stay stuck. So if you really want to change, not only do you have to do the spell, but you have to create a new groove in your mind so that consciousness will move out of that old pattern and into the new pattern. The only way to do that is to not think about the problem anymore. Think about the solution. And not think about how you want it to work out, because that's going to get you back into the negative thinking of like, oh my God, if it's not exactly the way I think it should be, something's wrong. No, think in terms of essence only at that point. Once the spell is done, let it go and let your mind focus itself on the essence, the essential quality, peace, prosperity, abundance, generosity, whatever it is, love, whatever the ultimate goal is, that's what you focus on, and you let the spell work itself out, and it will if you get out of the way. That's where most people mess up, is they do great spell work and then they get in their own way. They trip over their own feet and they mess it all up again. So don't do it. We're going to talk about another powerful way to avoid destroying yourself magically in just a moment. Does that make a little bit of sense, what I'm saying? That you can trust the process? I hope. Yeah, you got to be able to learn to trust. You've got to learn to trust that magic works. You've got to be able to trust that just like your deep mind knows how to create your and sustain your body, and it's connected to the same mind that knows how to create the universe and keeps the planets revolving around the sun, it's all one, and the deeper you go, the more universal you are. It can fix this. It can take care of this. It can do it. It got it. It understands what you want. It got it. But if you start giving it another command, you're not going to get what you want. You're going to fall back into your old pattern. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Questions at all?
Hi, Ariel.
Yes.
It's Joan again.
Yes.
Hi. I have a general question about spells.
Yes.
There might be a definitive answer, but whenever I work, I just tend to make up my own spell or follow my own ritual and something that really resonates with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I've started wondering whether I'm missing a trick, because in the shops you see these books, and I don't know if it's just a marketing ploy, but there are books of spells, and if you do this, that'll happen, and follow this ritual and that'll happen. And it crossed my mind that maybe there's some sort of cosmic energy that if enough people do a particular spell with certain ingredients in a certain way, that spell does have an energy of its own that makes it more likely to happen, in the same way as if enough people believe that certain planets have certain correspondences, then everybody does it and everybody believes in that.
Right.
What's your view on that?
Well, excuse me, I'm eating an almond. That's kind of rude. I
was having peanuts.
I'm sort of I have several trains of thought regarding that. I think ultimately magic is a creative act. It's not the same as making a cake. Making a cake, you have to follow a recipe specifically. And if you do exactly what it says in the recipe, you're going to get a good cake. And if you vary it at all, it's like chemistry. It won't come about. Whereas the chemical side of it is already hardwired into our deep mind. So it is scientifically exacting. It absolutely is. But the scientific side of it is less of our control than a lot of people want to believe. So just like the deep mind can keep your body in balance no matter what you do to it, to a point, up until you go crazy, So your deep mind knows how to really regulate your life very, very well. And it does it with scientific accuracy, very, very much so. But that's not our responsibility. We don't have to worry about keeping our heart beating or our oxygen circulating. We don't have to worry about that. That's taken care of pretty much by the mind. But that's also the same agent that works the magic. So it takes care of a lot of the details, scientific details of it. It does more of the formulating than we have to worry about. So our side of it really should be more of the creative side. Our side of it really needs to be more imagination, and working within those archetypal systems does have power. It does. But I find that working within the systems from a planetary perspective is sufficient to using spells from a spell book, because a lot of spells from a spell book make no sense to me, regardless of whether people have done them. I mean, I never know where they got that, or if they made it up, or, I mean, some of them are okay, but I've seen some of those, spells, and I look at it and I think, huh? Why would you do that? That makes no sense. Whereas you could take the basic, you could take the basic principles there and do a very powerful spell using, say, sympathetic magic. Say you could have a series of candles on your altar representing certain things, and you could each day that you're working on your spell change the position of the candles to show your deep mind what it is that you're after. Or you could fashion something out of molding clay to show your deep mind what it is that you're after. Whatever you can do to get your imagination working is good. It's a good thing. Sometimes it's easier for some people to just close their eyes and see it. Other people, they can do that better if they have some sort of tool. And so some people will like to, like we were talking about with the cord magic, where you tie a knot in the cord for every time you say you do a repetition of a chant, and that each time you do that, you see your goal more clearly. And so that's just a tool. It's not that without that cord and without those knots that you wouldn't be able to do it. It's just a tool. It's just a way to keep your mind focused. But as far as the planets and things like that, that has been going on for so long, longer than any of these spell books. That is so enmeshed in the human psyche because we live in the solar system. And so people have been working with those energies since the beginning of time, since we've been in this solar system, because those heavenly bodies were always thought of as gods, So if you want to look and see more than memorizing a bunch of correspondences, if you really want to understand how the planetary energies work, read Greek mythology. That's your best bet. If you read the myths associated with each of those deities that are represented by those planets, you'll understand where the strengths and weaknesses of each planet are. So each of the reason why each of those deities had some really negative traits is because that's what you can use. Those negative traits are what you can use those planets for, to banish or to eliminate those traits in your own psyche. So it's really great to be able to tune into that. But remember that those planets represent energies that are deep within us. They're not external deities for us to worship. They represent archetypal energies within us. So I find it's much more powerful to work with those energies, the days of the week. I mean, we deal with the days of the week all our lives. Those we have been enmeshed in the days of the week all our lives. That's something that's part of our psyche. We know about our solar system. The solar system has been part of our psyche since the beginning of this solar system, since the beginning of the human race. So using those tools, definitely you're tapping into deep energies, deep powers. But the other spells, sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's much easier to create your own symbols that work for your own mind in order to work with those energies than than to necessarily follow somebody else's spell. Now, if you see a spell in a spell book and you go, wow, I love that. That's really great. I want to do that. Fine. Absolutely. It'll work for you. As long as you understand that you're working the magic. It's your mind. The magic comes from within you. There's nothing outside of you that's doing this for or to you. It's your deep mind. It's a language. So whatever you can use to speak the language to your deep mind, and if those planetary energies those planetary energies are aspects of our consciousness. They aren't something outside of us. Everybody's got every sign in the zodiac. Everybody's got every planet. That we all are made up of that. It's just part of how our cultures, all the cultures of the world have been since the beginning of time. So it doesn't. If you're, again, just don't be superstitious about it. If you're seeing something in a book and you like it because you think that it communicates really well to your deep mind, fine, use it. If you're looking at it and going, oh, I never did that. I wonder if I wonder if my spell won't work because I didn't do the blah, blah, blah. Then that's not powerful. So hopefully that helps. Some of those spell books are fun because they give you some ideas, but some of them are just bizarre, and I don't get where they're coming from. Okay.
That was fantastic. Really good idea about the Greek people, the Greek mythology. Thank you very much.
Oh, sure.
Unfortunately, I just lost the last bit because everything went quiet. So I don't know what happened there.
What did you miss? After what? Up till when?
After the Greek gods.
Oh, okay. So what I was saying.
Recording,
okay, yeah, it'll be on the recording. But so I'm just saying that it's all a matter of you talking to your deep mind. Don't be superstitious about it. If there's something in a spell book that you like that seems like a good way to communicate to your deep mind, use it. If it doesn't resonate with you, leave it alone. But the magic comes from you. Yeah, the magic comes from you. Okay. So anybody else before we move on? Okay, so the last thing I want to leave you with is a very powerful concept that I find has always given intense results for most people that I know that have used it. So hopefully you're interested. Oh, can you hear me now? Oh, I hope everybody... Okay, good. All right, so back in the medieval days, when there was a lot of persecution of people that worked magic, and there was a lot of... it was just a dark time spiritually, and everybody was worried about going to hell, and everybody was worried about being burned at the stake, and everybody was worried about, the plague, and anytime something negative happened, it was a very superstitious time. Anytime something negative happened, it was because of Satan and demons and all of that, okay? But even in the midst of that, there were some high-level magicians who were wiser than the superstitious people of their times. There are many old grimoires of magic from that time that depict not only what was going on in the medieval times, but also harken back to something probably that they got from older, more primitive magical systems. And one of these systems was unfortunately classified as demonology, or working with demons. Now, don't worry, we're not going to work with demons. Some of you are going, woo, yay. And the rest of you are going, so sorry to disappoint some of you and give you the rest of you, a relief. But understand that there were several types of demons that they worked with. Most of the demons that were worked with were not demons at all. They were pagan gods that the church demonized. So most of the things that were in a lot of these medieval grimoires that were demons were actually not demons. They were deities. They were pagan deities. Astarte, so now then there's a whole mythology of actual demonology that we don't want to go into, where it was, the minions of Satan that were trapped, and if you could, it was sort of like if you could summon them the proper way, and you had the right kinds of prayers and the right kinds of magical training, you could threaten these demons to do your bidding, and if you were good enough, they would do it, and because they were afraid of you getting them punished by magical means, and if you weren't good enough, they would destroy you. Okay. But then there was another kind of demon, which people kind of lump in with all of that, which had nothing to do with either of those. It was neither a pagan deity, nor was it some part of Christian theology. It was inner parts of the magician's personality that were at odds with their goals. And this is an older, it didn't start with medieval magic. It was older than that, and it's something that's always been part of a good magician's toolbox, is finding those parts, the inner parts of your personality that are at odds with your goals, and bringing them to light, reinstructing them in a very loving way, so that you can reintegrate that part of your personality, so that you're not always butting your head up against a wall and self-destructing. Okay? Now, later on in psychotherapy, these types of inner entities were called sub-personalities, very different from multiple personality disorder. Okay, so psychologists use a similar kind of, and Jung talked about this too, about these different parts of us, these different parts of our being. But magically, it's very important for us to work with these parts of ourselves. Now, there's nothing to fear. In fact, it's very wonderful. It's very lovely. You feel good as a result of it, because there's parts of you that you have fragmented since childhood based on decisions that you've made. And these parts of your personality are operating like old computer programs, and they don't know any better. And they're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And what you can do is you can actually access those and reprogram them and have them work for your good rather than working against you. I have my own term for this. I don't call them demons because that's not really an appropriate term. I don't call them subpersonalities because that's a little bit clinical. I call them personality facets. This is a facet, like think of yourself as a beautiful gem or jewel, a diamond or a ruby or an emerald. And inside of you, there's all these wonderful facets. Now, there's a few of these facets that need to be polished or recalibrated, okay? And what I've done is I've given you a meditation in order to start working with these personality facets. And basically, what you have to recognize, and if you've been doing your mirror work, you're starting to understand this, that there's no part of you that's bad. There's no part of you that's doing something just because it's bad. Every part of you is trying to do something good. Every single person I know has done, that even have done horrible things, didn't know any better at that time. They really were trying to get their needs met. And had they only had some tools to be able to retrain those parts of themselves to get their needs met in a more positive way, they would have had an easier time in their lives. And that's why I like working with this kind of work. And all you do is you get into a meditative state. And like I said, I've given you a recorded version of this, and I have one on the public meditation podcast. It's called, I think it's called resolving inner conflict. It's a similar kind of thing working with your personality facets, but this one is more specific to the kind of work we're doing here. You just get in a relaxed state of mind. You do your orb of light or whatever you do, and you start to you call upon this part of you that is at odds with your goal. And what you notice is that this being is so eager because it's part of you. It's really happy that you called because it's been ignored for all this time. And it's very eager and it really wants to help. And it thinks it's doing good things for you. Like when your cat brings a dead bird home, it thinks, look what I got for you. Or a dead rat, look, I got this for you. I got this for you. It doesn't know that that's not what you want, right? But luckily for us, we can train our personality facets more than we can train a cat. Okay, so it's very excited and happy to be working with you. And what you do basically is I've given you, and you can use whatever symbols work for you. But the way I do it is I have you meet. I take you up onto the same mountain that we always meet on at the beginning of every lecture or class that I do. We go to the sacred fire. I show it what the sacred fire is. It's all excited about the sacred fire. There are other high-level beings there, like druids or whatever works for you, angels, masters, magicians, witches, whatever works for you. But they represent the higher forces of the universe, right? And you then take this facet over out of the area of the sacred grove and look out down at the world below the mountain. And you show it what your life looks like from this perspective. And you talk to it and you tell it what your goals are and how they're different than when you were a little kid. And this is what we're trying to do. And this is what my goal is. Now, what have you been trying to do for me? And it tells you. Would you be willing to do the same thing for me in a different way that's more in line with our goals? And it always says yes, because that's just how it is. It wants to. And so you guys have a little powwow about how it can serve you in a new way that's more in line with your goals. And it's excited. And then you take it back to the fire and you allow the sacred fire to transform that being. And you notice how it changes and how it grows and how it becomes more beautiful. And then you ask it if it's ready to become integrated into you. And then you take it and you put it into your heart and you become one with yourself again with a whole new perspective, knowing that you can always work with it again in the future, if you want to. And then you leave. Then you leave that place. And it's a very lovely, lovely, gentle, fantastic operation. And what you'll notice is that you start having major, wonderful shifts in how things manifest for you. And so especially in terms of like if you're having difficulty getting things to work for you magically, do a facet meditation. Work with a personality facet. And you can work with the same facet over and over and over again for a while if you need to, every day. Or maybe a new facet will show up each time. You never know. There may be many, many parts to this that need integrating. And it's okay. You can't overdo it because all you're doing is retraining your mind that this is what we used to be about. Thank you so much. I appreciate your help. Now, how can we do what you're trying to do for me in a new way that's more in tune with our goals here, and you become more integrated with yourself, and it's lovely, and you're going to love working with this. And I recommend that you do it often. And you won't, after a while, you can wean yourself off of my meditation if you don't want to use that, and do it on your own, if that's easier for you. And the same with all of the meditations, the orb of light. The only reason I've given you this extended orb of light is for those of you who want to still use the guided meditation, but you can do it on your own. You don't need it. You don't need me. I mean, that's the whole point, is that you don't need me. I'm just a guide. I'm just a momentary teacher so that you can figure out some skills and you can be on your way. All right. Any questions about that? About the personality facets? No? Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be probably opening this class up, the recorded archived version of this class up for people who weren't able to be here. So I'm not going to, people were worried that, you asked for money and now you're just going to get away. I'm not. I'm just going to give it to everybody for the same suggested donation that I asked for you. So everybody is fair. You know what I mean? And just like with any of my classes, if you can't afford it or whatever, you can, it's no big deal. Nobody's ever turned away for lack of money. So just remember that in the future, if you have a problem, we'll work it out. But hopefully, as you go through all of this, you won't have money problems anymore because you know how to get money now or any other good thing in your life. So what I was hoping is if there's anybody that would be interested to give me an anonymous, just, I hate the word testimonial because it sounds like, I was down and out and now I'm the president of a corporation, all thanks to Ariel and his class. But rather than that, more of an honest, just a few lines of what the class has been like for you and what people can expect from it, so that I can put that on the website for future generations who want to take this class. If that's something you're willing to do, I'd love it. If you can just email that to me, that would be great. Now, as far as the next class, I'm looking at probably doing that money class. It's probably going to be like 3 weeks, 3 or 4 at the most. And that's going to be, I believe, starting on, where is that? May the 17th, Sunday, May 17th. So the week after Mother's Day here. And then, hopefully by then I'll be able to do another 6-week class before I leave the country. I'm not absolutely sure of my dates, but I think I'll be able to start another 6-week class in early June, and we'll do the second module of this, and we'll be moving on to other little bit more advanced magical techniques. And if that doesn't work out, then it's going to have to be in later summer. When I get back. Okay, so I pretty much finished what I had to share with you for this 6-week module. So we do have some time left on this call. If anybody has any questions or things that they would like to say, I could open up my chat window if you don't want to talk. Oh, and thank you so much for all of your participation, Hannah, and everybody else. I really do appreciate you being here. And the facet work you can do anytime. You can really do it anytime. You can do it anytime you want to. It's really, I've noticed, I started it out when I was working with it. I started doing it as a waning moon kind of thing because I was thinking I was thinking of it in terms of getting rid of negative qualities. But I've noticed that if you feel like there's some sort of block even during the waxing moon, you can do it anytime you want. And so I personally feel like that this is a tool that you can use to augment your magic, or it's a standalone tool you can use if you're just feeling a little bit blocked in general in your life. It's a very, very powerful tool. And it's something that you can come back to over and over again. And it's funny because a lot of times I'll notice that because it's so powerful and it really clears things up. And it's so interesting how I and many other people who are familiar with this technique will bang our heads against the wall about a problem and forget completely that it exists. And once we remember it, it's like, oh my gosh, I could have had a facet. Yeah, I could have done a facet meditation, and you just do it, and it's like it gets things moving again. Same thing with those waning moon flips. People that just bang their heads against the wall. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? And then they forget, oh wow, I could have just gotten out a piece of paper and a pen and gotten through this in 20 minutes. And gone on to the other side of this instead of banging my head against this rock for 3 weeks. So even the flip exercises, if you're in a place where you're uptight or upset, don't worry if it's not on the waning moon. Write out what you're feeling and flip each thought around and keep doing it over and over again until you feel good. It's funny, but feeling good is really the ultimate test of whether your magic worked. You know that your spell worked because you have a sense of peace. If you're still worried about it, then you need to work on another level. And that's the kind of stuff we talked about today. There's all those tools that I gave you today. Working with the essences, working in the silence, working with more relaxation, pure meditational type work, working with the personality facets. All good stuff. Anybody else? Before we end this call? As I chomp on my almond right in your ear?
Hey, Ariel.
Yes.
I was thinking as you were going through the facet that reminded me so much of the meditation, the cauldron of information.
Oh, yes. It's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was probably the one that made the biggest imprint on me because of what it did in my life and how I experienced during that meditation some very real, things going on within me.
Yeah.
Issues and things. So I think that's on the same line. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you're right. I forgot about that one. That one and the one called Overcoming Inner Conflict is an actual facet meditation too. And you can use all of those. I mean, it's not that the meditations in this particular class are more powerful than the public ones. Those public ones, I try to do really, really good ones if possible. I think my sound system's a little nicer now, but that's okay. You can have deal with a few mic pops on the other one. But yeah, you can use all of those and do your own versions of them. Like I said, you don't have to feel tethered to my podcasts or to my classes or to my meditation. I just want to make sure that people get really clear information because there's a lot of odd information out there when it comes to magic. And it's not that I think that my way is the best way or the only way. It's just I do know that I try very, very much to make sure that what I teach is as pure as possible, as safe as possible, and as effective as possible. So it's a fairly decent litmus test when you're looking at other systems and other techniques. Is it streamlined? Is it positive? Is it going to get results? And many techniques are. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there. It's I never ever want anybody to get the impression that I think that I'm the fountainhead of magical knowledge, because I'm not. I'm just a student like everybody else. Okay. Yeah, and that primer, you're right. The primer, we've been doing for 30 years or something like that, and those spiritual purification exercises that you get on the very first one, those are still, I mean, nothing like doing that every day. Those are always valid, and those the power base exercises, I really encourage you to go back and do those again. You're going to have something much more profound the second time around, or the third time around, however many times you've done them, after doing this kind of work. And then after you do that and you come back to this kind of work, it's going to be even better. And they really work well together. And I encourage you to do that. All right. Well, I guess unless we have anything else to say, that we'll just go ahead and end this module. And did somebody unmute? Does somebody have something to say? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Puck.
Hi. Yes.
Hi. I just had one last question.
Yes.
And thank you again for this class. It's been so rejuvenating and wonderful for me, and I really look forward to the next module.
Oh, thank you.
Whenever that
Thank you very much.
Happen. So I just had a quick question about maybe your thoughts on, I guess what I'm conceptualizing right now as magical longevity. I do practice, and I have been practicing the things that you've taught us, in the Witch's Primer, like many of us, for a long time. But, I do go through periods where I sort of put my tools away, and it's hard without a community like this or a class like this to get them out. And I do sometimes feel resistance to it. And I wonder if you have any suggestions for those kinds of periods where, maybe it's not as easy it doesn't feel as easy to do the meditation, and it almost feels like backsliding.
Yeah, I know. Well, one thing that you can realize is that you do have a magical community. It's somewhat on the astral, but if you're, I would encourage everybody to utilize the forum. It's a good place to get connected, and also to when you're doing your orb of light, to recognize that you're not necessarily mixing with other people's orbs and energies, but you're in the company of other people when you're doing that. Because anytime that anybody is working the same system, they are not only working it for themselves, but they are contributing to a group mind. So you're the cool thing about a group mind is it's not intrusive, and that it won't overflow onto your work, but it is something that you can tap into if you choose to, just by thinking of it, just by thinking of the other people that are working this. And it's an interesting way of working. The other thing that you can do too is, when you're working in your meditations, is to think in terms of what your there's a couple of things I want to talk about, but think in terms of having maybe like an astral coven of other beings that are not necessarily even people in this group, but I mean they could be, but people that you might resonate with on the astral plane, that are working at the same level, that are working in that same group dynamic of the work you're doing, and to tap into that. I've done that many times when I'm lucky enough to have a nice spiritual community, but I've also, even within the spiritual community, I've pulled back and done a lot of solitary work too. And in doing that, I've discovered that there's sort of like this universal astral coven that you can always tap into, from people from all through different ages, different eras, different dimensions. And if you're working these kinds of daily exercises, like with the orb, you're tuning into a particular frequency, so you don't have to worry about low level people. There are low level entities. That's what a lot of times what people are afraid of when they think in terms of working astrally with other beings. you're actually going to be tuning in with people that are on the same type of wavelength as you. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do on a more pragmatic, practical level is you might consider doing getting a group going. You know, you can get getting your own group together and start doing some of this stuff together.
Okay, my partner and I were talking about that because we both took your class, so we've actually been thinking about that and maybe wondering how to get it started. So maybe I could email back and forth with you or something.
Yeah, sure.
Another, I guess.
One thing I always did when I was getting it together was I did spell work on it. You know, just to attract like-minded people that would want to work with me. You know. If you don't want to be like necessarily part of a tradition or that, you know, you could do actual spell work for it and then, you know, get on Witchvox or something like that and talk about or meet up or one of those things and just have coffee with some people and see what shows up. Yeah, and then the other thing too is if you really want to be solitary is to just to recognize that your daily magical practice is sort of like brushing your teeth or having food or something like that. It's just definitely something that you always go back to and do.
Right. Okay. It's so helpful. Thank you so much,
Sure.
Ariel.
I'm so happy to have had you in class.
I'm really happy to have been here, and I will get in touch with you about the DCW.
Sure. Oh, is the money class I mentioned going to be a podcast or a class like this? It's going to be a class like this. There's going to be a class like this. I'm sorry that you guys are having audio problems. An astral coven is what I'm saying. It's a sort of astral coven that you can tune into other like-minded people throughout time and space and other entities when you're doing meditations, if that's something that you feel like you need to get energy from other people, you can actually do that in the context of a meditation just by literally calling on other people that are working in similar ways as you. Whether that be people from this actual class that are interested in doing that with you, or people that are in other dimensions, other times, other places, and tuning into those people. And it's sort of like having a group soul or group mind. And you can tune into that just by saying that you want to do that. Some people prefer to just stay very solitary and they don't want that, and that's fine too. But you do have the option of opening up your meditations occasionally to feeling like you are connecting to other minds that are working in a similar way. The upcoming class will be posted on the website, and it will be also, I'll probably try to do Facebook posts, etc. All right? Okay, so let's close our eyes if we have that opportunity. Take some very slow, deep, relaxing breaths. And picture ourselves once again on top of that beautiful mountain. In the center of our circular grove of trees. And we see that bonfire blazing forth in the center of our circle. And we are all lit by this same beautiful golden light, which is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it burns away everything unlike itself. And we are very grateful for the time that we've been able to spend together in this class, and we look forward to spending more time together in the future. And we are grateful to any angels, teachers, deities, or guides that have been present. Thank you very much. Together we all say blessed be. All right, I'm going to unmute our call. And we can say goodbye.
Hello.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thank you. All right, and thank you so much for all of your participation in this class, and I look forward to the next one. Much love, many blessings. Blessed be.